Well, hey there, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Hope everybody's having a great day today. Let me know for those watching live in the comments that you can hear me okay. I want to make sure that you can always hear me. And we will get started in just a hot second here. So let me go ahead and pull this off. Also, if you are here live, let me know, say hi in the comments, and we are going to get started on our Tip Tuesday. So today we're going to talk all about 1099s, Form 1099 to be exact. And this is a form that comes up every year. We've got to do it every January, or we've got to at least talk about it every January. And so this is going to be really important for you if you are a business owner or a self-employed person or a freelancer or whatnot, and you've paid someone to do something for your business, whether it's someone, a virtual assistant, or it's somebody to make your website or whatnot. If you've paid a contractor to help you in your business, then you're going to want to listen up to this. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my slides here. Bear with me 1 second. And I'm hoping, I know a bunch of people are watching live. I'm hoping y'all can hear me okay, because nobody said you can't, but nobody's also said you can. So let me know, okay? All right, let's go ahead. Oop, hold on, gotta turn my phone off. We don't want to hear it twice. Okay. And I'm going to put this here in case y'all have any questions or comments as I'm going through. If you have questions or comments, please drop them below. I'm happy to answer them. All right, let me see if I can do this without, tech is never my friend. Okay, perfect. Let me go. You know what? I always hate this thing. I'm going to pull that back. There we go. And let's get rid of this comment for you all so you can actually see how to file 1099s and also what the heck are 1099s. In case you don't know, we're going to talk about that too. So don't worry. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. So a 1099 is basically a form that reports compensation to the IRS. Now, there are lots of different types of 1099s. There's the 1099 div, which reports dividend income. There's the 1099 INT, which reports interest income. And there are some others as well. The one we're going to talk about today is the 1099 NEC. Now, in the past, this has been the 1099 MISC, miscellaneous. And it was the form that self-employed folks, contractors, business owners would use to report income that they had received in the course of doing business on the 1099 miscellaneous. Starting for income in 2020, we're using a form called the 1099 NEC. It basically is the exact same form, but the IRS has essentially now created a form specifically for business owners, freelancers, and whatnot, versus in the past, we've just always gotten lumped into the 1099 miscellaneous, MISC. So the 1099 NEC reports non-salary income to the IRS. Now, if you are an independent contractor and you were paid more than $600 for business purposes, for providing services for business purposes in 1 year, then you should be receiving, in theory, a 1099 NEC. Now, for the purposes of a 1099 NEC, we have to pay these out to individual contractors that are individuals, LLCs, LPs, limited partnerships, general partnerships, or estates. I'm going to get into who we don't have to pay these to, but pay very close attention to that, because if you pay someone in the course of doing business, excuse me, that's a C corporation, for example, you don't need to issue them a 1099 NEC. So it's just individuals, LLCs, LPs, partnerships, and estates. Now, I do want to point out right now that if you are an independent contractor, even if you don't receive Form 1099 NEC, you still have to report the income. So just because you may not get the form, we'll talk about why you might not get the form, doesn't mean you don't have to report that income on your tax return. You still have to. So basically, what's a 1099 NEC and who gets one? Business owners have to issue 1099s when you've paid $600 or more over the course of the year to an independent contractor. That's an individual, an LLC, an LP, a partnership, or an estate. Now, this is for services performed. This doesn't mean, like, if I go buy a laptop from a business, it doesn't mean I have to then give them a 1099 NEC because I purchased the laptop. This is for services, things like virtual assistants, things like social media managers, website designers, graphic designers, anyone who's providing a service to your business. And that's the other piece of it I want to stress. This is just for business owners. So if I go pay someone to walk my dog in my personal life, I don't have to issue them a 1099 NEC. I'm an individual in that situation, not a business owner. Make sense so far? Cool. Okay, so who should not get a 1099 NEC. First and foremost, employees. So if you have people that you have classified as employees, they will actually get what's called a Form W-2. If you've ever been an employee, you may remember getting one of these as well. This is a form that says how much you made, how much in taxes was withheld, plus a few other things. We also don't have to do 1099 NECs to corporations, C or S corps. So one of the things we're going to talk about today is how to actually find this information out and how to get the information you need from your contractors. But one of the things you'll find out up front is what type of entity they are. And if they're a C or an S corp, then you do not need to issue them a 1099 NEC. You also don't need to issue 1099 NECs if you've paid your contractors through third parties. We're going to talk about what that means, so I want you to just put a pin in that one, but know that there is a really big exception to when you have to issue 1099 NECs, and this is it, and we'll talk about it in a couple of slides. You also do not have to give a 1099 NEC to sellers of merchandise. That was my laptop example. Anyone who provides freight or storage or similar items. So again, this is really like true services versus things that are connected to products and the selling of products. Now, there's one sort of funny rule, which is actually that lawyers are not exempt. So even if you work with a law firm and they're a C corporation, you actually still have to issue them a 1099 NEC. It's a funny rule that exists, but just note that if you paid any attorneys this year. Now, I talked about how there's like this one really big exception to the 1099 NEC rules, and it's if you've paid your contractors through a third party. So here's that exception. You do not have to issue a 1099 if you hired someone through a freelance marketplace like Upwork or Fiverr. And the reason for that is because when you hire someone through those marketplaces, you're paying them through those marketplaces, right? So if you've never used them before, you go on Fiverr, you find somebody, you pay the money into Fiverr, Fiverr holds the money, then when the person does the job, Fiverr pays out the money. So if you go through a freelance marketplace, as long as you're paying through that freelance marketplace, you don't have to issue a Form 1099 NEC. You also don't have to issue one if you pay your contractors through credit cards, debit cards, or third-party payment processing sites. So for example, PayPal, Stripe, or Square. And the reason for this is because those sites actually have rules themselves for when they have to issue 1099s. And they actually issue what's called a 1099K, not an NEC, but it's basically the same idea. And they have to issue those to people that they distribute money to via their site, okay? So this is like the big exception. So I pay a lot of my contractors through Square or through Stripe. And so because of that, I don't end up having to issue them 1099 NECs. Now on the flip side, this may be why you as a contractor don't get a 1099 NEC, because you may have worked with a business that's paid you over $600 for the year, and you may never get a 1099 from them. So you might be wondering, well, why not? Well, if they've paid you through a credit card, through a debit card, through a platform like Stripe, or through something like Fiverr or Upwork, they're not going to issue you a 1099 NEC. So then you might ask, okay, well, I assume then that I'll get a 1099K from Fiverr or Upwork or PayPal or Stripe or whatever it is. And the answer is you might not. And the reason for that is because the threshold for those sites to issue a 1099K is actually higher than it is for a business owner like me to issue a 1099 NEC. I actually don't know the exact, let me pull up the exact threshold. Hold on, let me get over here. It's 200 transactions, or I always forget the dollar amount. It is. So you have to exceed both of these, both more than 200 transactions on their platform and more than $20,000 during the course of the year. Now you can imagine that even if you've got a really big thriving business, because you might be getting paid from different places, you might not exceed that on one platform, right? So if that's the case, if you don't exceed 200 transactions or more than $20,000 in sales throughout the year, then Stripe or Fiverr or Upwork or whatever doesn't have to issue you a 1099K. So you might end up getting no documentation around this income. But again, remember what I said at the beginning, even if you don't get a 1099, you still have to report the income. okay? The other component that I want to mention here as part of this big third payment processor exception is that apps that are cash transfer apps, so this would be something like Zelle or Venmo or Cash App, do not qualify for this exemption. And the reason that they don't qualify for this exemption, and I want to actually add on to this as well, PayPal friends and family. So if you send funds or request funds through the PayPal friends and family version versus the business one, then this doesn't count for that exception either. And the reason is because these apps are not set up to be used for business purposes. In fact, in their terms, it even specifically says, do not use these for business purposes. And that's why I repeatedly say, please don't use these for business purposes. You could lose your account. They're not set up for business purposes. So, Venmo or Zelle doesn't know that you're getting these funds for business reasons. And so they're not going to issue a 1099K because they think that this is just personal funds, paying for drinks and dog walks and whatever back and forth with your friends. Caveat to that is Venmo just announced couple of days ago that they are rolling out a business payment feature. So moving forward, and I haven't looked into the details yet, but moving forward, once that's up and running, that will qualify for this exception, as long as you go through the business area of their account, basically. Okay, so again, I want to reiterate here, if you've paid your contractors through a freelance marketplace like Fiverr or Upwork, where you pay them through the marketplace, or you've paid them through a credit card, a debit card, or a third-party payment processor like Stripe or like PayPal Business or Square, then you do not need to file a 1099 NEC. And again, cash apps do not count for this exception. Now, this is a huge exception, especially in this day and age, because so many people are paying their folks in this manner, right? What I always tell people, if for any reason you're not sure, if you have any doubt in your mind about whether or not you need to file the 1099, when in doubt, just file it. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to be penalized for filing it, but you definitely will be if you were supposed to file it and didn't. So if you're not sure, even a smidge of a doubt, go ahead and file it anyway. It's not going to cost you, very much money or very much time, and it'll give you peace of mind. All right, now, let me go back to my slides here. Okay, so let's walk through the steps for actually filing the 1099. Let me grab some water real fast. And again, put all your comments or questions in the comments. Okay, so the first step to complete the 1099 is to gather the necessary information. Now, the best way to do this is when you bring someone on board, when you're hiring someone for a job, is to have them fill out what's called a Form W-9. The Form W-9 is an information form. You can get it on the IRS's website. And essentially what it does is it gives you their full legal name. It gives you their taxpayer identification number, which you're going to need for the 1099. And it essentially has them attest to the fact that they are a U.S. taxpayer and they are not subject to what's called backup withholding, meaning you'd have to withhold tax on their behalf. They're not subject to that. So they're going to fill out this form and they're going to sign it. You're going to keep this on file. This is you don't file this with anybody. You're just keeping it in your files. This is your record that they have certified to you that you don't have to withhold taxes on them. And it gives you the information you need to file the 1099. So on the W-9, you're going to get their full legal name, you're going to get their mailing address, their taxpayer identification number. Now, when you go to actually gather the information you need, you're also going to need the amount that you paid them during the year. You're going to need that for the form as well. Now, if you're sitting there saying, oh shit, I didn't get Form W-9 when I hired these people, that's okay. Don't panic. I want you to do two things. Number one, I want you to build this into your process moving forward. I request this form from every contractor I pay before I ever pay them a dime, because I know that it's going to be a lot harder to get it sometimes months from now when I've already paid them. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to go back to all of your contractors that you worked with this year, and you're going to ask them for Form W-9. Hopefully everyone gets it to you and you don't have to chase them down, but that's what you might have to do this year. Moving forward, let's build it into your process. Okay, so step number 2. Now, every Form 1099 has a couple of copies. One copy is going to go to the IRS. One copy is going to go to the taxpayer. We're going to talk about each copy separately. Excuse me. Copy A is going to go to the IRS. Now, you can submit this to the IRS electronically or via mail, and it's due by January 31st of this year, by the end of the month. Here's the thing. If you are going to file this by mail, this can be a little bit challenging because you have to use a physical form, right? But you can't just use any physical form, meaning you can't go to the IRS's website, download a 1099 NEC, fill it out, and mail it off. The IRS requires that you use one of their official 1099 forms, which you can't download off the internet and print out. You have to get from them physically. And the way you get that is you either order them from the IRS, like you literally go on their site and they'll send you the forms, or some office supply stores have them. Like I just saw them in Staples when I was there the other day. So if you really want to do a paper copy, you can do that. I'm going to tell you it's a pain in the butt. I'm going to show you how to file electronically. That's the way I prefer you do it, but it does cost a little bit of money. So just keep that in mind. If you send your 1099s in by mail, you also have to send in Form 1096. Now that one you can get off the internet from the IRS website, but you've got to send in Form 1096. It lists out all of the 1099s that you're submitting. So it's kind of like a cover sheet, if you will. But you've got to have the 1096 if you're mailing in your 1099s. If you're filing electronically, you don't need the 1096. Now, you are required to file electronically if you are submitting 250 or more forms. I'm guessing none of you are, but just in case, know that you're required if that's you. And you can actually be fined up to $100 per form if you are required to submit electronically and don't, okay? So that's copy A, and I'm going to talk about exactly how you submit electronically in a couple of slides, but just know that those are your options. Now, copy B has to go to the independent contractor. Again, it has to be sent by January 31st, has to be sent by January 31st, 2021, excuse me. In this case, you don't have to use a formal official form. You can go to the IRS's website and download the 1099 NEC and use that. That's fine. But here's where things are kind of flipped. In this case, you'll want to mail it to them because in order to email the copy to the independent contractor, you actually need their consent. And this is not as simple as just saying, hey, Mary, can I send the 1099 to you by email? And she says, yeah, sure. Not that simple. There are very stringent rules. And you can find these on the IRS website if you're really curious. But basically, there's all these specific things that you have to get them to consent to. It's a lot. And I'm going to tell you, it's not worth your time to go through that process. So in this case, this is another reason why I'm going to recommend to you to use a service in a couple of slides, because it's going to. Now, the third thing you have to do, you've got your IRS copy, you've got your contractor copy. The third copy that you might have is a state copy. So you need to check to see if you have state filing requirements. There is a combined federal and state filing program that essentially, for a lot of forms like this, allows you, if you file it for federal, it'll automatically get filed for the state. The 1099 NEC is not part of this program yet. Now, it may end up being. Remember, the 1099 NEC is a brand new form, or it's actually not. We had it in the 70s. They've brought it back, but it's new to us now. So I suspect in the future it will be part of that program, but it's not this year, or at least it's not right now. Okay, so for right now, you're going to have to do your own little legwork this year for the states. Now, you may have filing requirements in the state where you do business. You may have filing requirements in the state where your contractor resides. And if your contractor does the services, performs the services in a different state than where they reside, you could have filing requirements there. Probably less of an issue this year, but if you have a big event and you hired a contractor to work the big event in California, but they live in Wyoming and you live in New York, you need to check filing requirements in, what were the states I said? California, Wyoming, and New York, okay? This actually could come up this year with COVID. If you have a contractor whose tax residence, where they sort of, where they say their permanent residence is for tax purposes, is different from where they spent some of this year. So if you have a contractor that went and stayed with family for 6 months because of COVID, you need to check both the state where they lived, the state where they were for the 6 months, as well as their state of residence for tax purposes. Now, your head might be spinning and you might be thinking, well, how the heck do I do all of that? my plan is with every single one of my contractors, what I'm doing this month is I'm sending them an email that's saying, hey, just want to confirm that your information is, that you provided me on your W-9 is still up to date, that this is still the state that you live in. By the way, during the course of 2020, what state did you live in and what state did you perform the services for me in, and are they different? So I'm just asking that one question so that I can understand where I need to check to see if I have filing requirements. Now, one place, and I'll put this in a hot second, but one place where you can check the requirements of each state is actually on the link there on the screen. It's a service called Tax 1099. They're one of the services I'm going to recommend to you in a second, but they've got a really good guide on all the different requirements for each of the states. So I would recommend starting there. Okay. I can make this all easier for you. So the easier way to do all of this, the easiest way to do all of this, I should say, is to actually use a 1099 filing service. Now, you may be able to file your 1099s through a few different places. The first is an actual service like Tax 1099. The other one I'm going to drop in here, sorry for my mouse, which I don't have on this slide, but is a good one as well, is Track 1099. I'm going to tell you, I've used both in the past. You're not doing a whole lot with these services, so don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out which one's perfect. Both are perfectly fine. Either are fine, so I would just use whichever one looks better to you. They will, you'll put your information in there. They will take it. They will prepare the 1099s. They will send it to the IRS. They will send it to the contractor. And depending on the state, they can possibly send it to the state for you. If the state doesn't have e-filing capabilities, they will at least give you the form so that you can send the form to the state as well. So it takes care of everything for you. The pricing is not usually too bad. I think in the past I've paid $15 per 1099. I actually think they've changed up their pricing. It looks like it's even better than it has been in the past. So I highly recommend checking it out. It takes a lot of hassle off your plate. Another place where you may be able to file your 1099s through is if you have a payroll provider, something like Gusto, or I mentioned I use Square to pay some of my contractors. So if you have paid your contractors through some kind of a payroll provider system like that, they may be able to prepare and file your 1099s for you. I know Square does it. That's how I do my contractors that I run through Square. So definitely check with those providers. And the last place you may be able to file your 1099s is through your accounting provider, whether that's QuickBooks or Wave Apps. I just got the email from Wave Apps about filing 1099s through them. Most of those have that functionality. So I would definitely check there as well. So you're going to check three places: your accounting provider, if you use a payroll system to pay folks like Square or Gusto. And then if you don't have the capability to file 1099s for either of those, then you can use a service like Tax 1099 or Track 1099. Okay, let me go. Yes, okay, that's what I thought. So that's what I've got for you all for slides. But I know this can be a lot. I know we've got a bunch of people watching live here, both on Facebook and over on YouTube. So let me know. I'm going to give it just a few more seconds. Let me know if you'll have questions. I want to make sure I get all of your questions answered because these have to be filed by January 31st. And while it's only the 12th and it feels like we've got lots of time, remember, if you've got to collect information for your people to file these, you're going to want to make sure you're doing that now because that can take a little bit of time. You've got to put the request out, you've got to get the information back, and then you've got to get them prepped and go through that process. So let me know if y'all have any questions. I'm going to give it just a few more seconds. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. But oh my goodness, excuse me. No questions. Y'all are good. All right. So I am going to leave it there then. And I'll give it, like I said, I'll give it just one more second in case. I know there's always a bit of a delay on these. Excuse me so much. Oh my gosh. I'm just coughing a lot today. But before I do wrap it up, I did want to remind everyone that I have opened up completely for free my Biz Money library. So this is the place where I put all of my best Biz Money resources. It's well organized. It's not just a junkyard of stuff. It is meant as a resource library for you. Everything from taxes to accounting to paying yourself to cash flow. I've got lots of stuff there. We're going to continue to add more and more stuff as we go. Again, it's completely for free. There's no trick. You've just got to sign up for it so you can get a login name. And you can do that by going to megkwheeler.com/free. So I don't see any questions. I am going to leave it there. Oh, hold on. Oh, you're so welcome, Shonda. Thank you so much for being here. Really, really appreciate that. So again, head on over to megkwheeler.com/free, hop into the Biz Money Library completely for free. And I will see you all back here on Thursday. If you are a member of the free Facebook group, Badass Moneymakers, I'll see you back here Thursday for our Q&A. Otherwise, I will see everyone else back here next Tuesday. Bye for now.